legends, time for a bit of Jim Does SuperCoach. Talking out now, AFL SUPERCOACH. How are we all trucking? What are we up to? Round 10. Absolute chaos. Can't believe it's going by so quickly. How did we all go in round 9? It was a crazy weekend of footy. Everybody stung by the Nas late withdrawal. Tell you what, that didn't help matters. The biggest thing I had was being unable to VC loop, which I'll get to in a second. So I end up with a 2260, which is just a little bit below par. That's ranked in the top 25%, it's just not that good enough. You can sort of see where the holes were as well, which is really frustrating. So it leaves me ranked for the season at 24,974. Brutal. Top 13%. And I think this is the joke. I keep basically hitting that top 13% overall ranking, sort of jumping up here and there, but it's getting tough to sort of push through that glass ceiling in the top 10%. I'll tell you that much. So let's try to get there, shall we? What are we going to do this week, Jim? Well, what are the big issues? The obvious one is Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera out this week, a late out. So that's a DNP. That's a donut on your field, maybe. I at least had the emergency on Selwood, which managed a 69, which is all right for the Dogs. But still, the biggest ongoing problem is he's out for at least another 3 weeks, and I don't like the sound of at least. It's a calf strain. If there's anything I've ever learned from NBA Australia is you do not screw around with calf strains. They can lead to Achilles because it's all attached. This is all to do with my own rehab and why my calves are finely tuned machines now. But still, what do we do with Naz? Are you going to trade him out? I am going to pretty much do what I ought to have done with Petrarca, I think, which is I ought to have held Petrarca. I held him 1 week, should have kept holding. Instead, I think I used Petrarca as a sort of way to get Bont properly. So it wasn't too bad. That's actually worked out all right. But by the same token, should have just started with Bont as well, Jim. That's right. But anyway, so Naz, he's got a round 16 bye, so you're sort of hoping that he's coming back to cover by the time the buys start in round 12, which is fast approaching. And I guess erring on the side of caution, him being priced at that very juicy 558, and if you want to trade him out and make sure that you get somebody else in who's another super duper defensive premo across whatever line you want to do, I'm okay with that. It's a jump up actually from Naz to Archie Roberts, the number one defender right now at 597. So you do have to find 41k just to even do that jump up at the moment. But I think, as we always find in SuperCoach throughout the years, sideways trading even for 3 weeks, you can be as bloody minded as you want, right? I think that's usually a good approach, being super aggressive and going, cool, if that person is not playing, they aren't on my team. That's a good approach. I'm also just trying to be mindful of the amount of trades we're going to have as we're trying to get these teams filled up with premos. And if Naz misses 3 weeks after this one, so we're taking out round 10, 11, and 12, and then he comes back 13, 14, and you're like, ooh, we've got 3 more weeks before he even gets to his round 16 bye. And then suddenly, maybe in 3 weeks' time, you're scrambling to find enough money to bring Naz back in. And we do know his ceiling is through the roof. So I'm just sort of hesitant on trading him out this week. Lots of coaches have already done so, which is completely fine. I think it's now up to 13,000 trades so far of Naz. And look, it makes sense. It makes sense. If you want to move him and ensure that you've got pretty high, decent scoring on field, that's okay. Me, I might just try to save that trade, sit him on the bench for a bit of a spell, and try to muddle through by bringing in Archie Roberts this week. I'll get to that in a second. But anyway, other injuries, you obviously got Tinglish back out with the concussion. That is brutal. But otherwise, you're sort of looking around, and there's the biggest issue I think a lot of folks are dealing with, obviously injuries with Naz out, Tinglish out. You've got Cal Wilkie under an injury cloud as well, which is pretty tough. But you look at some of the other names that are sort of floating around and who's coming in, who's going out. there's not a giant amount of decent, tasty-looking cash cows this week. There are a couple of interesting names at least there. Obviously, Liam Henry, priced at 160, is a forward for the Saints. Don't mind him. Job security feels like he's in the team and he's flying. Looks pretty good. Minus 47 break even. Love that if you're going to bring him in. That's okay. Outside of a bunch of this, though, you've got Dara Joyce in terms of job security. Bit of a question mark up there in Brisbane. You might be falling in the Perez trap just a little bit. But it is interesting to see that folks are jumping on some of the cheaper premos at the moment, which is pretty smart and pretty good. So I think that's what we should be looking at this week. If you have to fill some gaps, this is upgrade-downgrade season for me. I'm basically in the middle of trying to cull as many rookies as I can to get as many primos into the team as possible and then sort of dealing with everything else out of that. My big white whale at the moment is probably Cherry with Grundy and already with Luke Jackson on my team. I've still got McAndrew and R2. I'm playing Grundy in the flex. The tricky part there is trying to get from McAndrew probably to Cherry, or if we just basically spot somebody else into the flex spot. But Cherry scoring, those three rucks, Jackson, Grundy, and Cherry, are obviously like just roll gold SuperCoach point scoring machines. You've also got Max Gawn. His move forward has maybe stymied his actual scoring a little bit, but by the same token, I think having three rucks playing for you is the ideal situation you want to get to. And I guess with McAndrew sort of plateauing a bit, he's at his 377k. They're actually up against North this week. He still has got a break even of 53, so I'm not really too concerned about, oh no, McAndrew is still on my team. He'll continue to make little bits and bobs of money, but probably just not enough because Cherry's sitting at 685 right now. So yeah, it might take a pretty big swing in a trade to get Cherry into my team at any point. Gawn is actually the third highest scoring ruck so far this year. 127 average, but Cherry's got the highest average, and obviously he missed 3 games. So the top 3 at the moment per average are Cherry, Jackson, and Grundy. So I feel like you want to get all of them into your team. Anyway, otherwise, what are we looking at this week, Jim? I think that was kind of it, right? We've still got some fallen cheapy primos. Let's just basically go through the biggest names at the moment, which is the trades in, the trades out. What is everybody on top of right now this week? The trade outs. Cashing in rookies. Jacob Farrow is the most traded out at the moment. Naz, there's your injury. Tanner Bruhn cashing out a mid-pricer. That's fine. Philippou, he's at 321. That's not bad. He's done pretty good for himself. Josh Lindsay, I jumped off him last week, of course. He's still making money, but that was the sort of price I had to pay to get the sort of double upgrade I had last week, and I'm okay with that. I now have Petrarca and Callahan in my team, so sort of off they go. Fare thee well, little rookie fellas. Jack Carroll, he's probably in the gun for me. Willem Dersma, Sam Grill, Blamires, and Jai Sarong. I reckon most of those you're okay trading out. And so everybody, you're doing a good job. The Naz question is the big question. Traded in Dara Joyce, Liam Henry, Archie Roberts, V-Smart. Hugh McCluggage at 474. He topped the ton this week and against the Blues. Break even now at 77, 474. Just the big question. We know that he can score. 111 at the Gabba against the Blues. I guess the question is, do you think he'll be a top 8 midfielder, a top 10 midfielder? Can he be a pod down the stretch? Maybe. And at that price, it's hard to ignore him. Rankin is the other one. I've gone back and forth this week, bringing in Rankin at 463 in the forward line. He's made the move to the midfield, looks awesome, and he is absolutely flying. Bont is the 6th highest Australian player at the moment, 612. Yeah, that's why I didn't. Look, the people who did trade him out a week or two ago, I understand it. But the saving of that 100K is backfired because he just made another 100. He just made another 27K back on that, and he's back up to 612. Wade Dirksen is at 7. That makes a lot of sense. I think he'll get a look in this week with new coach Josh Fraser because Michael Voss is out. And as a Blues fan, I'm certainly not crying a river of tears. Lockie Whitfield's the 8th most Australian. I really love Whitfield's role as a defender. He'll probably end up as a top 6 defender, pretty easily. 580K at the moment. They're playing West Coast. They have smashed West Coast the last 3 times, and 2 of them have been over West. So continuing a pace, I dare say. Finn Callahan's also the 9th most traded in, ahead of Zorko, which is another good one. He has, the Lions have got this game against Geelong on the weekend. He had 86 this week, Zorko. I just remain unconvinced that there's not better options out there at the moment. So, yeah. Anyway, and in terms of, I mean, as I said, the cash cows, there's it's pretty light on the ground this week, apart from your Dara Joyce, Liam Henry, Liam Reedy, Lockie Smith, if you reckon you can just go and throw away one of those ruck spots. Dirksen, awesome -33 option for his break even, so I think he's going to probably come into my team. Paddy Cross, Charlie Edwards, he didn't play last week. Will Lewis is still cruising along, 180k. Happy I've got him in there already. But yeah, the cash cows this week, it's a bit thin on the ground. So this is the big question. Upgrade, downgrade. Do you go 1 for 1? I'm going to cash in a couple of cash cows, I think, just to go, might be a bit of a double downgrade, 1 upgrade, to get a couple of cheapies into mine. But my big thing is, I haven't had a floating donut this year. Zach Katalski's been a little bit hit or miss, obviously, and Brisbane have been playing a lot of these early games, so it doesn't really help when it comes to your sort of floating donut. Like, you can throw him on there and just go, right, chuck the E on him, but chuck the E on your ruck too, but you can't just throw the captaincy straight on Zach Katalski. So with Brisbane playing those early games, it's a little bit tricky. So I'm a little bit more interested in getting a floating donut from probably a couple of the teams that play a lot more Sydney games. And if you go through the fixture, obviously that a lot of the time means West Coast, Melbourne, a couple of the lower draw teams suddenly playing on Sundays a lot. So my big one is like Kalani White, just sort of sitting there. He's got the ruck forward, dual position player. I've also got Zach Katalski as a defensive ruck, so I like having that movability. So I'm just saying, I reckon it's about now I get the floating donut in there so I don't get stuck like I did this week with the VC on Butters, who rips off a 130. Would have taken that in a heartbeat, but obviously by the time the Port game had started, realising that all my Dogs players, everybody else, I had no actual recourse. And then, of course, Naz happens, and it was too late, and I hadn't noticed because it was Mother's Day and we were busy. So, yeah, a bit of a rough one, I'll tell you. So that's why my score suffered dramatically. Also, not helped by Dacos and Sam Walsh, sort of underperforming a little bit. Petrarca only managing the 90, not great. Dan Houston with his 86, not that great either, but still, you get that on the big job. So, anyway, some of the other names floating around that I just wanted to hit on very quickly. In defense, Archie Roberts, love his role, love what he's doing, getting plenty of the pill. The only time he scored under 100 was when he was in the guts. Love his halfback role, getting plenty of the ball. Lockie Ash is probably the other one that I would go to. I think he had 111 this week. His actual possession totals, his role has changed just a little bit, so I'm just a little bit more leery on him. But if I wasn't going to Archie Roberts, I'd probably roll the dice with Ash a little bit more because I think he's a little bit of a nice cheapie there. Bailey Dale's obviously pretty cheap as well. He is, I don't know, his SuperCoach scoring is just one that always scares me. Every time I bring him into my team, he just suddenly plummets off the face of the planet. Wayne Milera, another really interesting one, along with Johnny Noble, the weapon for Gold Coast. He had a great week this week. I feel like his role is really sort of coalesced, but Matt Rowell will come back. Johnny Noble might not get quite as much of the ball. Might move more and spend more time on that wing. So that's a little bit of one that I'm sort of just keeping an eye on. So Archie Roberts, Lockie Ash, Miller, Bailey Dale is probably how I'd rank them in the way I'd like them. The mids, you got McCluggage, you got Callahan, Max Holmes, Zeret, Basilenka, all sort of doing a little bit of these with some of the scoring. We got a Sarong bounce back this week at 118. He's still at 463k if you want to jump on that roller coaster with everybody else. Callahan managed 100 with the 488k this week. Dropped a little bit in price still. Didn't go massive against the Bombers like I hoped. Dacos is at 567k. He's fine, but yeah, it's still a bit of a worry. But the mids, I mean, it can be a bit of a dart throw at the moment. If you look at the top mids for the season, still happy that I've got Lockie Neal in my team because it's just one of those ones you go, I think he'll be top 10 at some point. And for the season, I think he's now just reaching there, I want to say. I reckon he's got the 12th highest average and overall points, he's 8th. So happy with Lockie Neal. But if you look at that list of the best midfielders right now in terms of total points, it is Bont, Butters, Basilenka, Shees, Maxi Holmes, and I really like Max Holmes and Zeret, 5 and 6. Both losing a little bit of cash at the moment. And I think they're going to be two of the ones that I'm just going to be focused on in the next few weeks. And you sort of start looking towards like the rest of their schedule and everything and get very, very interested very, very quickly. So especially with Zeret and, I mean, they've got a Carlton game coming up. There's just a lot of fun stuff. Luke Parker, Clayton Oliver. But still, the forwards obviously ranking. If you want to bring him in at 463K, I think that's much. Shai Bolton's still an interesting prospect. It's just, do you trust it? Do you really? He's averaged 123 over the last 3 rounds. I just can't get there. So you got the top ones at the moment. Shees, Bolton, Cozzy, Josh Tracy still just keeps putting up massive numbers. But this is it. It's like, he's that good. Do we dare go with a key position player? Jack Ross, he's been insatiable. Took Miller at 6. J-Mac, he's breaking my heart at 64 this week. He dropped another 16K. He's in 10% of teams. He's probably one that I'm going to jump on once he bottoms out. I love him. Petrarca, and these are the total points as well rather than the averages. Jason Horn-Francis, another 74 for him this week. That's a bit of a tough look. But the averages is Petrarca, Shees, Bolton, Cozzy, Tracy, Bailey. So pretty interesting. I don't mind getting in Liam Henry this week if that's what you're going to do. J-Max there at an average of 95. But with Heaney and Chad Chunley-Warner back, Chunley-Warner's actually there too, I think, in terms of he's got an average of 89. Always just looming and going, maybe this week I'll go massive. But basically, that's, I'm essentially spending most of my time looking at the team and going, right, who do I want to bring in? Who am I basically, who's going to be cheap? Who do I think will end up as a top 6 defender or forward or a top 8 midfielder from here on out? It doesn't matter what they've done already this season. It's from here on out. What are we doing? Archie Roberts is the one I'm probably going to land on this week, and that's what I'm going to do. So finding a couple of other cheapy primos, there's a difference between going, it's getting a bit silly to not have a guy of his caliber in your team. That's where I've sort of landed. So I'm going to jump on the Archie Roberts train, I think, this week. So I think the trade I'm going to make this week is going to be Archie Roberts comes in. He's fresh off a 151. The thing is his role, his break-even is 110, so he's likely to keep on rising in price. They are about to play Freo this week at the MCG, which is an important sort of factor. I mean, it doesn't really matter where he's played. He had 140 at the G against the Pies 3 weeks ago. But how's this, sorry? They play Freo, then they've got a run of Richmond, West Coast, and Carlton, which is pretty nice. Melbourne, North, and Saints. And I'd be feeling pretty good about Archie Roberts in my team. So I'm going to bring in Archie Roberts. I'm also going to, at the moment, bring in Dirksen, pending, obviously, whether or not he gets picked. And then the other one is probably just bring in Kalani White as the floating donut. So out goes for me. I'm just going to cull some rookies. Jack Carroll, Lockie Jacks, and Tom Blamires go out for me, which I feel okay about because that means I can keep Naz there. Don't burn a trade on him. So this is me boosting as well. I've got one more boost after this. This is the big question. Do I actually have to use a boost to go and get Archie Roberts to get rid of 3 rookies? Dirksen will make some money if he comes in. Kalani White is a floating donut. That's a tactical move. Do we have enough cash gen elsewhere to keep us afloat? That's going to be the tough one. Will Lewis for me, Todd Marshall, Burton, Angry Anderson, Rechko, Selwood, Milan Murdoch, Leo Lombard, Braden Cook. Yeah, it's going to be thin on the ground. So this is the big question I'm going to deal with before lockout tomorrow. But for the moment, Wednesday evening, that's what I'm going to do. Use a boost, get to Archie Roberts, cull a couple more of these rookie, bit of cash in the bank, go a couple of 99Kers, one of which will actually play and one of a floating donut. So I think that's where we land. All right, so with the trade, we've got Archie Roberts coming in, Dirksen coming in, and Kalani White coming in, boosting. We're going to get rid of Jack Carroll, Lockie Jacks, and Tom Blamires. So what does this mean? The actual team reveal is, Jim, what's the team for round 10? Well, defenders, we've got Archie Roberts, we've got Naz. He probably goes to the Pine, obviously, for Selwood. Maybe Dirksen. Dirksen might have a bit of a interesting role under Josh Fraser. So Dirksen maybe goes on field. Josh Sinclair should have a really good week for the Saints up against the Tigers at Marvel. Dan Houston, James Sicily, Todd Marshall's had a swing from down forward for me. So then, Selwood, Dirksen at the bench at the moment, but we'll put one of those on for Naz, likely Dirksen. Midfielder Butters, Bont, Neal, Dacos, Walsh, Callahan, Sarong and Milan Murdoch, Rechko, Angry Anderson and Tommy Burton on the bench. The rucks still Luke Jackson and McAndrew rather, and ZZ Top on the bench. Forwards, Shees, Petrarca, Cozzy, Stupid Sexy Flanders, Braden Cook, Leo Lombard, Will Lewis. He was awesome at the end of that game last week. And Kalani White, the new floating donut. Melbourne do play Saturday night, so trying to navigate that should be pretty easy this week. I think I'll get to that in a second. But love having the floating donut. Just got to have it. If you're going to do your VC loop properly, that's how it works. So, because I've got Brodie Grundy in the flex spot, I think I'll throw the VC on him this week. They've got the matchup against his old team, but the thing is they're at the SCG. So, Brodie Grundy does love him some SCG. He's got a break even of 183 this week. I reckon he goes pretty close. At the SCG, he had 136 and 130 his last two games there. And against the Pies, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he goes, but I think he'll be fine. I'll throw the VC on him. And in terms of the actual captaincy this week, you look at, like, Naz would have been a great look if he hadn't have gotten an injured last week, obviously. But otherwise, Butters up against the Gold Coast Suns is a really interesting one up there in the NT. Just wonder sort of about disposal efficiency. You've got Cozzy up against the Hawks. Not bad. If you've got Cherry, I'd definitely be throwing it on him up against Adelaide. I do love Lockie McAndrew, but Cherry should probably have his way with him. Luke Jackson has got Essendon this week. So that might be the one where I go. And I feel pretty good about it. And anyone GWS up against the Eagles out west would be pretty interesting. But I think I'm going to go Grundy into Jackson this week. Lockie Neal. I mean, they're playing the Cats this week on the Thursday night. Don't know if I'd bother with the VC there. But the VC goes to Grundy. The C likely to Luke Jackson. And there you go. How good's that? That's your round 10 preview show of Jim Does SuperCoach. Hope you're feeling good. Hope you're feeling great. Hope you're not too afflicted with the SuperCoach injuries. And here is to a big week of AFL SuperCoach. All right, I've been Jim. Happy SuperCoaching.